You want this?
Let's get started. I'm very thankful today that we have the privilege of having a speaker come in. He's coming all the way from New Jersey. The Mercer County Drug Awareness Coalition has brought us, and I would like to introduce first Gloria and Tracy Panzero and Gloria McClay. If you could just say Mackley. I'm sorry, I did a terrible job pronouncing your name. If you could stand for a second, I'd like to introduce them. These two ladies came actually during our open house, and they sit on a panel letting people in Mercer County know, and there's other people too, the drug problem that's going on in Mercer County. We have a big heroin problem, and there are overdoses happening every day, every week in Grove City and all around the county, and these ladies are out talking about it and informing people about it. And you're going to hear some things today that you don't know. And, I just want to thank them, too. So if you could give them a quick round of applause. Thank you. So thank you. Our speaker today is Michael DeLeon. He started the Steered Straight program, and he's going to talk today, and I'm going to let him tell you about his life story. And because he's going to impact you more than I will. So I'm going to hand it over to him and let him get started.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you. This is on. So this is on. I hope this is good. How's everybody doing? All right. Where's my sixth grade? Sixth grade. Where you at? All right. Seventh grade. Seventh grade. Eighth grade. All right, now. It's okay. They didn't know. See how it works? You get to eighth grade, you lose your mind and you go crazy, right? But I don't know. Sometimes I think sixth grade lungs are loudest. I don't know. Where's my sixth grade? Seventh grade. Eighth grade. All right. Woo. All right. Good job. All right. Now, I wanted to get that out of your system. Because I want you to really pay attention. I want you to listen. I don't have much time, so I really have a lot to talk to you about, and I don't want you to miss anything. I want to do everything that I can, so I really need you to pay attention, okay? What I have to talk about is very serious, and I do that. I let y'all scream, get it out of your system, because I want you to listen and pay attention. I started this Steered Straight program, and I go into middle schools and high schools all around America. I've been to 47 states since January, and I go into county jails, and I go into state prisons. I go into residential drug treatment programs where people are getting help for their alcoholism and their addiction. And some of those centers are for adolescents, kids actually addicted to drugs, and they're getting help for their addiction. I also go into juvenile detention centers. And up until 4 years ago, the youngest kid I saw in juvenile detention was 11. 11 years old, locked up in jail. Can you imagine? 11-year-old child locked up in a jail cell. How old are you, young lady? 12. So can you imagine an 11-year-old locked up in jail? It's crazy. So 4 years ago, I was in Baltimore, Maryland, and I met my first 9-year-old kid locked up in jail. Couldn't believe it. 3 weeks ago, in Hendricks County, Indiana, I met my first 8-year-old child locked up in a jail cell. I go into over 100 juvenile detention centers in the country. I've met a lot of 11-year-old kids. I've met 12 9-year-old children, and now one 8-year-old. And it really breaks my heart. In Baltimore, Maryland, I met this 9-year-old kid, first 9-year-old kid I met in a juvenile detention center, and I was leaving. I was sick to my stomach. I just met a 9-year-old baby in a jail cell, and I couldn't believe that we lock up 9-year-old kids in jail in America, but we do. And so we're leaving there. We're going to Washington, D.C. The guy I'm riding with is my best friend. His name's John. We're driving to Washington, D.C. to visit some high schools, and we're driving through the Baltimore Tunnel. And on the face of the Baltimore Tunnel, there's this sign, and it says, stay in lane. You have to stay in the lane when you're in the tunnel. It looks just like that sign right there. I said, John, how does a 9-year-old kid get locked up in juvenile detention? Like, how does a 9-year-old kid get locked up? And he points to the sign at the face of the Baltimore tunnel, and he goes, the kid's not staying in his lane. I know it was like a flippant comment he was making, kind of not joking about it, but he was just saying the kid's not staying in his lane, but it meant a lot to me. Like, I really liked it, stay in your lane. It's become my new saying. I came home, I took Photoshop, I made a new sign, I put "your" in the middle. The sign on the tunnel said, stay in lane. My sign says, stay in your lane. And that's what I want you to do. Your students, your student musicians, student athletes, your students, your young men and women, you need to stay in your lane. And staying in your lane are going to get you to where you're going. It all comes down to choices. You make choices every single day. The choices and the decisions that you make right now in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are going to determine the choices and the decisions that you make in high school and college and beyond. It all starts right here. And I didn't stay in my lane. That's why this means so much to me. That's why being able to come and speak to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders means so much to me, because I didn't stay in my lane. I wish I did. I actually wish I could have some real life Freaky Friday movie where I become you and you become me. Ever seen those movies where the kid becomes the adult and the adult becomes the kid? Man, I'd trade places with any young boy in this room. You know what I mean? If I could get a chance to go back to do it all over again. I would trade places with any young guy. I would never trade places with a girl. It's too hard to be a girl. I don't know how y'all do it. We don't appreciate how hard it is to be a girl, do we? Do boys appreciate how hard it is to be a girl? No, no way. So I would never, I could never, ever be a girl. It's too hard. So anyway, but I would trade places with any guy in this room. I want you guys to understand the importance of your life, the importance of this time in your life, the importance of your voice, and the importance of going to the adults in your life, talking about what's going on in your life. I want you to ask your parents to go to Grace Chapel tonight. I'm going to do a big presentation. It's called Grace Chapel, right? Big presentation tonight. You're welcome to come with them too. It's a different kind of presentation than I'm going to do right now. And we're going to talk about solutions in our community. And you need to urge your parents to come out tonight and listen to me. I'm asking you to come with them if you can, but ask them to come. I want you to use your voice. It's the most important thing that you have right now. And when I was your age, I got abused in the 6th grade, and I didn't go to my counselor. I didn't talk to my teachers. My parents got divorced when I was in the 7th grade, and it really ripped my heart apart. And I didn't talk about it. I just stuffed all the feelings down inside and didn't open up and didn't go to my counselor. You have Miss Rudder here. You can go to her. She's there for you. You have principal in this building, counselors, teachers. You have people in this building that are there for you. They don't come to work because they want a job. They come to work because they want to change the lives of kids. And guess what? They stayed in their lane. And if they want you to stay in yours, all right? They're very important people. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I've worked on a lot of movies. I've worked on a lot of documentaries, and one of the things I've got to do over the last 7 years is work on commercials. And so I've worked on about 80 commercials, and whenever I go into a middle school, I like to play 2 commercials. I'm going to play one for you now, one for you in a little bit, but this commercial is very important to me, and I wanted to share it with you, so please pay attention.
Everything that I've gained in life has been because of the teachers and the education that I had. They're just part of who I am.
Teaching is the most important profession we have.
We all go through a stage in our life where we'd like to do something important. And I was given the tools to do that. Because I was fortunate enough to have some great math teachers that were incredibly inspiring.
He told us all about how mountains form and rivers.
She convinced me that there was no limit to what we could learn.
I don't think I'd be here today had I not had a wonderful science teacher.
Miss Mazzeo was her name.
Dr. Gilmore. I mean, he could teach. He would never give up on any of us.
The teacher can make a huge difference in a child's life.
She had a big impact on me in applying engineering skill sets to make a better world.
She was very inspiring for me. She made learning of all things calculus fun.
I learned a lot from her, not just about math, but about life.
Hello, Mrs. Quinn, and thanks.
Thanks, Mrs. Snyder. Julie, thank you so much for inspiring me.
Thank you, Mr. Davies.
Thank you, Mrs. Milholland.
Thank you, Dr. Newfield. You had a big impact on me.
All right, give it up for your teachers, man. Give it up for your teachers. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I do that every single day, Monday through Friday, throughout the whole school year. I go to schools 12 months out of the year because some schools in Arizona and Nevada go schools 12 months out of the year. Monday through Friday, I get to play that video for middle schools. That was one of the best. That was one of the best rounds of applause I've ever heard, man. You really appreciate your teachers, and you got to understand that they have good information for you. And see, those people in ExxonMobil, when I got a chance to do that commercial, there's about 30 of them, about 30 people telling me who influenced them so much in their life that they became the geoscientists and the engineers and the human resource managers, these big successful people in successful careers, happy. And they attributed it to a middle school teacher, a high school teacher, somebody that got them so interested in science, somebody that got them so interested in math, somebody that got them so interested that they became successful. And they remember those people very fondly, as you could say. You know, I like what the woman said. She didn't just teach me about math. She taught me about life. Y'all, listen. She didn't just teach you about math. You're learning about life at this school. You're learning and getting the tools you need to live your life when you get older. And sometimes people get off track. 4 years ago, I decided I wanted to become a drug counselor, and I had 26 kids that I was counseling, 18 years of age to 32. 26 people I was counseling. And 3 years, 10 months ago, in the span of 10 days, I lost 4 of my kids to a heroin overdose. An 18-year-old girl, a 19-year-old boy, a 22-year-old girl, and a 23-year-old boy. I lost 4 kids on my caseload to a heroin overdose. Never been to a funeral in my life except my mother's, and then I went to 4 funerals in 10 days. I lost these kids to heroin, and guess what? Guess where it started? Marijuana, alcohol, and tobacco. Kids started smoking cigarettes, and then they started drinking. And then they started smoking weed. Their friends saying, hey, marijuana is not a drug. It's legal in Colorado, okay? Or popping pills, being at some house. Listen, if you get injured or you're sick and your parents take you to the doctor and the doctor writes you a prescription and you take that prescription to the pharmacy and you get your little brown bottle and it's got your name on the bottle and you take that medication under the guidance of your parents, that's no problem. That's great. But if you're over some kid's house and they have some sort of pill or bottle and your name's not on it, you don't know what that pill's going to do to you. And sometimes we get prescribed pain medication and we end up addicted to pain medication, especially if it's not prescribed to us from a doctor. And then I'm hearing about all these kind of parties that kids are going to and people are bringing pills there. And we have a problem. Does anybody in the audience know someone in their life that's negatively affected their life with drugs and alcohol? Who knows someone who's negatively affected their life with drugs and alcohol? So it's more than half. Who knows someone who's been in jail or prison for drugs and alcohol? Raise your hand. That's even more. I don't understand how that's more, but anyway, put your hands down. So let me tell you real quick. When you go to jail and prison for drugs and alcohol, that's negatively affecting your life, okay? Who knows someone who's been in jail and prison for drugs and alcohol and they've been home and then they went back to jail and prison again for drugs and alcohol? Wow. So by a show of hands, who knows someone who's lost their life, drugs and drug overdose? Raise your hand. Raise them high so I can see. So almost half of your student population in this school knows someone who's died from drugs. Now that's crazy. When I was your age, if you asked that question, there wouldn't have been a single hand raised. It's got to stop. And your law enforcement heroes and the legislators, okay, and the Congress and the Senate and president and parents and these fine people, we're all trying to stop this problem. I'm trying to stop it. There's a lot of people trying to stop it, but we can't. All we can do is try to minimize what's going on. But the only people who can really stop it is you guys. The class of 2021, the class of 2022, and the class of 2023. You guys are the ones that can stop all this. Who knows someone who smokes cigarettes? Tell me. Who knows someone who smokes cigarettes? Look, the entire audience. Okay. Put your hands down. Hold on. Who could tell me the number one reason people die in America?
Because they use too much and some people use it to help and with
Oh, that's interesting. Some people use cigarettes to help them with their anger issues. Okay. There's a couple other things that they could do, like yoga, meditation, drinking tea, talking to a counselor. You know, who knows someone who smokes cigarettes and they've tried to stop, they just can't stop, they wish they never started in the first place? Okay, same amount of hands. Is it a good habit or a bad habit? Bad habit. It's 493,000 Americans die every single year from cigarettes. It's the #1 killer in America. Heart disease is the #1 killer. Cigarette-related illnesses kills more Americans than everything else combined, right? Is it a bad habit or a good habit? And all of you raised your hand that you knew someone who smoked, and the same amount of people raised their hand that you knew someone who wished they could stop. It's it's actually the most addictive thing on planet Earth is nicotine, right? It's very hard. Who can raise their hand and tell me how you can 100% guarantee yourself never to have to figure out how to stop smoking? Yes. How can you guarantee 100% you're never gonna have to figure out how to stop smoking? Never start in the first place. Never start in the first place, right? Absolutely. Don't ever start in the first place. See the words over that video box? I missed some very important lessons. See, I don't remember my teachers like those folks do. I don't remember them all fondly like that. You know why? Because I didn't listen. I didn't listen. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, I was probably the most redirected student in my school. I consumed all my teachers' time. I didn't listen. I was sent to the office. I think I still have the record, most times sent to the principal's office. Hard head, not listening to the amazing people in my life. And it led to poor choices, and it led to poor decisions. You guys have to understand choices and how important they are. And at the time, I gave this behavior and mindset a name. I call it can't happen to meism. It's a disease. Some of you have it. Some of you know people who have it. Oh, that'll never happen to me. This is stupid, man. That'll never happen to me. That's what I used to think. I used to think it would never happen to me. And because I thought I was invincible and indestructible and I didn't need to listen to my parents and didn't need to listen to my teachers, that started me on a path to really making bad choices. And I was at Sheetz this morning, right? And in Sheetz, there's these 3 refrigerators. There's refrigerators all over the back and the side of the store, right? But I go over and I count them. 1, 2, 3. Full of energy drinks. Rock Stars and Monsters and Red Bulls and 5-hour energy drinks. I was like, what the heck, right? It's crazy. None of y'all drink that stuff, right? Does anybody drink that stuff? Hold on. Are you 6th graders telling me that you drink that stuff? All right, listen. I'm going to save this for another time. I'll be back to talk about it. But I need you to know it's really bad for you. It's really, really bad for you, okay? You shouldn't be drinking that stuff. When I was in my 20s, we didn't have those energy drinks. But we had something called caffeine pills. Now, you can still get them at the store, but the ones that they were selling back when I was in my 20s, they contained some drugs in them called amphetamines. And you're supposed to take maybe 1 to get through your day. And so I took 1, and I really liked it. And then I took 2, and then I took 3. And then a pill became a packet, and then a packet became 3 packets. And I was up to about 75 or 80 a day. I was eating about 75 or 80 caffeine tablets per day. And I started to have medical problems, real bad problems. Restless leg syndrome, blurry vision in my ear, ringing in my ear. Blurry vision and ringing in my ear. Migraine so bad it would put me in bed. Then I started having seizures off the pills. One time I was in Columbia, South Carolina at a meeting. I was driving back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where our office was. And in the middle of my drive, driving up Highway 77, I went into a seizure driving my car. And there's a truck weigh station at the state line. And at over 100 miles an hour, I went into the truck weigh station. And thank God I didn't kill anybody. I went off the embankment. I sheared like 20 trees. When the car came to a stop, I'd gone through the windshield. My legs were wrapped around the steering wheel. I was laying on the hood of the car, blood everywhere, and I was dead. A police officer pumped my chest for 6.5 minutes, kept my heart going until EMTs got there and they brought me back to life. I was airlifted to Charlotte Memorial Hospital. I did 3 trips to Raleigh-Durham Medical Center to get sewn back together. Had plates put in my body, pins put in my body. It was a miracle that I lived. And the real miracle came 9 weeks later when I was released from the hospital. It's a miracle. I walked out of the hospital, I went right back to work. I'm supposed to be on bed rest for 2 months, but I decide I'm gonna go back to work. Now I've been on this morphine in the hospital for 9 weeks and I'm really groggy, so I tell my wife to stop at 7-Eleven so I could pick up some more caffeine pills and go back to work. Did that make any sense? Going back and taking the same stuff that put me in the hospital in the first place? And so my best friend is visiting me and I'm eating these pills all day and he introduces me to cocaine. He says, you want to stay awake all the time. Those caffeine pills aren't good for you. You should do cocaine. Does that sound like the good advice of a good friend? No. Well, see, he was using drugs. He was using drugs, and he wanted me to use drugs with him. Has anybody had has anybody ever heard this saying from their grandparents or their parents? Misery loves company. Has anybody ever heard that? Misery loves company. Well, my friend was using drugs, and he wanted me to use drugs with him. Now, my parents raised me not to do drugs. My teachers, my counselors, they told me don't do drugs. My coaches, Nancy Reagan was running around the country telling me just say no. Well, when it came time to say no, I said yes. I told my friend yes and I got high. I got high. I shouldn't have got high. I should have said no. When he said, you want to get high, I said, get out of my office. I should have said, get out of my office. I should have said, no, I don't get high. I should have said something, but I said yes and I got high. And I got high the next day with him and the next day with him. And now instead of snorting cocaine, I started shooting cocaine. And then I started shooting heroin. I was vice president of sales and marketing for a $42 million company with 16 salespeople and over 400 employees, making all this money, living in a beautiful house, married to Wonder Woman with 2 kids. That's what I call my wife, Wonder Woman. My wife's name is Wonder Woman. Well, perfect life, and now destroying it with drugs. But you couldn't have convinced me that I was causing myself a problem because I had this disease that can't happen to me-ism, and I didn't think I was causing myself a problem. Well, I was. And I lost my money, I lost my house, I got bought out of my business, my partners fired me, and I'm living in North Carolina trying to figure out how to get through this problem. I would have never had to get through this problem and figure out how to start doing drugs if I what? Didn't start in the first place, right? Well, I started in the first place, and now I have a full-blown addiction. So I'm sitting in North Carolina in my house. My wife goes back to work to keep our lights on and food on the table, and my son's in school every day, and I'm taking care of our little 4-year-old daughter while I'm using $250,000 in drugs and destroying my life. I sold everything I could. I pawned everything I could of value. I had no money left. No money, no drugs, and I'm standing in the bathroom one day looking in the mirror, trying to figure out, where am I going to get my drugs today? I got to get drugs today. What can I do? Where can I get money? And just then Kayla, my daughter, comes up into the bathroom and she's tugging on my towel, and I'm like, what? And my little 4-year-old daughter looks up at me all crying and shaking because she's hungry. Like my child needs some food, and I'm worried about drugs. And I look in the mirror and I'm like, I wonder if I have a drug problem. Did you think I have a drug problem? Yeah. And so I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, where can I go to get clean? Where can I go where there's no drugs? I need to go and move away where there's no drugs. Where can I go? I know, I'll just move back to New Jersey. I mean, there's no drugs in New Jersey. I'll just go back to New Jersey. That reaction right there, young lady, that reaction, that was beautiful, beautiful. She goes like this, oh my God, what is wrong with this guy? Great reaction. Well, I said, I'll just move back to New Jersey and think there's drugs in New Jersey? You think I found them the day I got there? Yeah. So while my wife is unpacking our boxes, I said, babe, I'll be right back. I'm going to get something to eat and drink for you and the kids. And I went to the convenience store and got some drinks and chips and sandwiches. And I look over when I come out of the store, and there's Newark, New Jersey. Now, you might not know about Newark, New Jersey, but it would be like you come out and see Chicago, and you see Atlanta, and you see Youngstown, Ohio, and you see Cleveland. Guess what? There's drugs there. So I look at that, I'm like, okay, I'll just go down in there and get some drugs real quick, and I'll get high before my wife knows, and I'll get on home before she even knows. So I go down into Newark to get high real quick, and I came home 3 days later. Spent every penny that we had. Supposed to give all that money to the new landlord for this furnished first floor apartment. And I'll never forget the look on my wife's face when I opened up the back door. She was sitting at the kitchen table, Kleenex all around her, crying her eyes out. And she just looked up at me and said, Michael, you said you were going to get clean. This was a fresh start. You told me you'd get clean. And I just went, whatever. I went to sleep. And I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and my wife, Darla, is laying across the sofa with both kids wrapped around her, and I snuck out the back door to go get high. And the next day, I decided to go shoplift at a Kmart store to get money. And then I started breaking into houses. I broke into a corrections officer's house, and I stole his gun. And now I'm running around New Jersey with a stolen handgun robbing gas stations. I was vice president of sales and marketing for a $42 million company, and now I'm running around New Jersey with a stolen handgun for my cocaine and my heroin. My life had spiraled out of control. Now, I wish this was my bottom. I wish that I had come to my senses. And I'm getting my drugs every day. Every day I'm getting drugs, and I'm going into Newark, New Jersey, and I'm getting my drugs from a gang. And I ended up getting involved in a street gang in Newark, New Jersey. Now, y'all, look at me. Do I look gangster to anybody in this room? No. Now, listen. Now I'm committing different kinds of crimes, and I'm a street gang member. I'm a criminal, and my wife doesn't know what to do. And my house is being used for guns and drug distribution. And 2 kids are sitting in my living room, and they have handguns on the table. And my 5-year-old daughter walks up and picks up one of the handguns. And if she could have got her finger around that trigger, she would have shot herself. And my wife grabs her and runs into the room screaming at me and telling me what just happened. And she says, I'm leaving you. I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving. And I'm like, you ain't leaving me, boo. Well, boo went by. I came home that night, and there was a note on the dining room table. I know you'll choose me over your drugs. Well, young ladies and young gentlemen, I wish I could have chose her over my drugs. I wish I did choose her over my drugs. I wish I stopped doing drugs, and I wish I followed my wife. But I didn't. I just did more drugs. I got kicked out of the apartment because we had nowhere to go, and behind on the rent, and I'm driving around trying to figure out where to go. And I decided I'm going to move in with my mother. I have nowhere else to go. My 63-year-old mother had sold her house, just retired as a nurse, and moved into a condo apartment, and I moved into this apartment with her. And here I am in the bathroom again, looking in the mirror. And I'm looking at the reflection in the mirror. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and I just come to the realization, you know what? I'm just going to be a drug addict. I'm just going to be a loser, man. That's all I am, a loser drug addict. So I better make this gang thing work. So I put a gang deal, big drug deal together. I wanted some street cred and some ranking, so I put this big drug deal together, and it went bad. Some people got shot, and some drugs went missing, and some money went missing, so I went missing. I went home, and I grabbed my drugs, and I took off. They're holding me responsible for what happened, so I'm driving all over the area, getting high, laying low for a little while, letting things die down. And it's 3:30 in the morning on Sunday, May 13th, 1995, and it dawns on me that it's Mother's Day, and I felt horrible. I've been in my mom's condo for 5 weeks. I haven't even spent 5 minutes with her, so I decide to go home and spend Mother's Day with my mom, and I do, and I arrive home. 7:20 in the morning, I arrived home, and I found my mother unconscious on her floor in front of her bed. I rushed in, and I turned her over, and I picked up the phone, and I called 911. And 911 dispatcher is telling me how to give CPR to an unresponsive person. And I'm kneeling over my mother, and I'm giving her CPR, and the Rockaway Township Police Department, the EMTs get to the apartment, and they run down the same hallway. And I'm kneeling over my mother, giving her CPR with the phone on my shoulder, talking to the dispatcher, and I look up into the doorway, and the sergeant's standing right there, and the patrolman's standing right there, and I said, sir, help me, please help me. You have to help me. And the sergeant walks into my mother's bedroom, and he grabs me, pulls me off of my mother. He said, she's gone, son. She's gone. You see, 2 gang members came to that apartment to look for me, and I wasn't home, and they killed my mother. And my 63-year-old mother was killed on Mother's Day, and I get to live with that the rest of my life. I need you to understand, when my friend put a line of cocaine on my desk I didn't see where this was going to take me. The choices and the decisions that I made in my life was affecting me, but now it affected the most important person in the world. I ended up getting arrested, going to the county jail. 22 months I sat in the county jail. Instead of focusing on my gang ties, they focused on me. And they charged me and arrested me for my own mother's murder. I had to take 3 polygraph exams, and I passed all 3 of them. I proved to them that I didn't do it, but I was responsible. The reason my mother's not here is because of me. I passed 3 polygraph tests. They're called lie detector tests. You might have heard about them. Well, in spite of that, I had to take a plea bargain for 5 years, or I faced 30 to life. My public defender put a piece of paper in front of me and he says, I recommend that you take a 5-year prison sentence. They actually sentenced me to 20 years, but guaranteed my release after 5. And I went to prison for 5 years. I got out of prison. My wife is back in my life. My kids are back in my life. And when my wife and I are driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, and the truck in front of us flips over, and the back of the truck comes down on the roof of our car and crushed the roof and cracked 3, 5, and 6 vertebrae in my neck. And I was rushed to the hospital with a broken neck. And I'm in the hospital in traction for a week, and they released me with a bunch of medications. But one of those medications was a bottle of 365 80-milligram OxyContin. That's a very strong painkiller. And I ate that bottle in 1 week. That was 90 days of drugs, and I ate them in a week. I went back to the hospital. I got another bottle. I ate it in a week. And I started seeing multiple doctors. It's called doctor shopping, when you go see multiple doctors to get more drugs, when you go into the emergency room and you report pain and you get painkillers. See, pain medication is very, very, very dangerous and needs to be used with much extreme caution. Well, I was a drug addict and I didn't have any caution and I abused it. And just like that, I went right back to cocaine and heroin. And guess what else? Right back to criminal activity and right back into my gang. I opened up my house again for gang distribution money and gun distribution, and my poor wife is sitting there saying, what is going on? And a kid is supposed to drop off $1,200 to me. And he says he did, but he didn't. And 5 guys come up into my house, and a kid walks into my living room where Kayla's watching TV on the sofa. And a kid walks into my living room, he grabs Kayla by the hair, and he puts a 9mm handgun to the side of her head. Another kid walks into my kitchen, he grabs my wife by her hair, and he smashed her face on our kitchen counter. And his blood's gushing down the left side of her face. He chipped 2 of her teeth, sticking a .22 caliber handgun in her mouth. I'm standing there looking at my 11-year-old daughter with a gun to the side of her head, my wife bleeding from the head with a gun in her mouth, over $1,200 that was never given to me in the first place. This is what I did to my family. This is what I did to my daughter. This is what I did to my wife. And if it wasn't for the kid standing right in front of me speaking, if he didn't speak up, I wouldn't be standing here today, and nor would my daughter and wife be alive. He said, something's not right. He loves his girl. He loves his wife. If he had $1,200 stashed up in his room, he'd get it for us right now. Maybe he didn't get paid. Maybe the kid, Tariq, who said he paid me, didn't pay me. So they threw my daughter on the floor. They threw my wife on the kitchen floor, and at gunpoint, they put me in a truck and took me to confront this kid. And when he came clean about the money, they shot and killed him right in front of me. And I ended up sitting in my living room 4 hours later, and there's a knock at the door. I open the door, and there's 2 detectives and 2 police officers standing right in front of me. What's your name? Michael De Leon. Click, click, you're under arrest for first-degree murder. And I was charged with murder again because I was standing in the room with 5 other people. Long story short, they ended up violating my probation. I was on probation. After that 5 years, I was on probation. They violated my probation and sent me back to prison. My murder charge was dismissed because the other guys all took plea bargains. But I was back in state prison on a 20-year prison sentence, and I served 7 more years. I took 5-year gift, and I turned it into a 12-year nightmare. And I spent 12 years in that cell, in that 6x9 prison cell. The toilet right there and the sink, and they feed you through that little slot right here with a guy, didn't like him. in that little cell. You see, when that kid put that line of drugs in front of me, I should have said no. But I said yes. When some kid comes to you and says, you want to smoke some weed, and you say yes, you don't know where it's going to take you. You're at some party that's supposed to be drug and alcohol free, and you get there, and there's alcohol and drugs. I mean, you have a choice. Do you call your parents and tell them to come pick you up? Or do you just drink with your friends? Well, your friends will be like, it's no big deal. Everybody's doing it. Well, everybody's not doing it. When I said yes to that drug, I said no to my life when I became a criminal. I became a drug dealer and a drug addict and a thief and a robber. I became a pariah of society. I was a criminal. But not once did I stop and see how my choices and decisions were affecting other people. And the most amazing woman God ever created, my mother, lost her life. I can't use a more recent picture. I got this picture when she's 62. She's kissing me at Christmas. It's my favorite picture in the world. And I've tried to put it up there and use it. And as soon as I turn around and look at it, I start crying. I can't get through the presentation. So I use this picture. I'm 1 year old in her arms at the World's Fair in 1964. I don't have an emotional attachment to the picture, but my mother, my beautiful mother, her life was ended because of me. And my 11-year-old daughter, 2 weeks after that school picture was taken, she had a gun to the side of her head. My wife still has that little scar over her left eye where her face was smashed off our counter. And all I can do right now is kiss it. And I kiss it every time I'm with her. I did that to my family. I did that to my mother. I made these choices. I lost my freedom. And the reason why I get up every single day and tell you this, the reason why I have to do this, the reason why I have to tell you this horrible story, you beautiful 6th, 7th, and 8th graders living in an amazing place, in a beautiful county, in a beautiful state, is because it's happening right here. And it's happening more than ever before. And I need you guys to do me and yourselves a favor. I need you to realize who you have in your life. I need you to realize Miss Rudder's there for you. Your principal and administrators are there for you. Your amazing teachers are there for you, and they want to hear from you. If you got something going on in your life, if you've got someone in your family at home struggling, and you don't know how to deal with it, you need to talk to the adults in your life. And all you guys, say you guys are in here, you're good. You live in a great family, there's no problems, your house is perfect, everything's perfect. Hey, be the ear for one of your peers that's going through something. Look after each other. You guys, this is the sailors, right? Isn't that your mascot? The sailors? Listen, I was in the Navy. I was on a ship in very close quarters. And if you didn't take care of the person next to you and look after each other, it affected everybody on the ship. You guys are on a ship right now, and you guys are the sailors. You guys got to look after each other. And you can't allow what's happening in your community and in your county and in your state to affect you. You got to say no to drugs and alcohol forever, forever. I got denied college because I'm an ex-con. I couldn't go to the college of my choice. Like, I'm so glad, Miss Rudder and your administrators and these fine people bring me to talk to you. I'm an ex-con. Do you know what an ex-con is? What's an ex-con? Right. So am I an ex-con? How long am I going to be an ex-con? Forever. Rest of my life. Ain't no reset button. I don't get no do-over. I'm going to be an ex-con the rest of my life. I couldn't even go to college like I wanted to. If I went to the Board of Education in your community today and picked up a job application, would they hire me? What's the name of this town? What? What's the name of this town? Sandy Lake. You guys got a police department? Could I be in the Sandy Lake Police Department? No. Could I work at the county jail? No. State prison? No. I can't work for the school district? No. I am so honored that these amazing adults allow me to speak before you, but I'm going to be an ex-con the rest of my life, and I'm not allowed to do a lot of things I want to do. Let me tell you what else happens to me. And it's happened 7 times since I've been home from prison. When I get pulled over by law enforcement and that hero goes back and sits in his or her seat and puts my information into that little computer screen right there, it comes up who I was, not who I am. And here's what happened. Here's what always happens. The sheriff's officer or a trooper or a police officer comes up to the window, license and registration, insurance card, and I hand it all to him or her. It's all valid. And they go back to their car. And this is what I do. I look at my watch. and I just count down. Usually it takes about a minute. Got another car. A couple minutes later, got another car. One time I had 6 police officers behind me. You guys ever drive down the road with your parents and you see a car pulled over and there's like 6 troopers behind them and you're like, man, I wonder what terrorist they have over there. That's not a terrorist, that's me. And someone like me who put all that information on that computer screen because I made poor choices. I made poor choices and I don't want you to make the same poor choices. I want you to talk to your parents. I want you to go home and ask them to come tonight to Grace Chapel. I want you to tell them my story. I want you to tell them my story. And here's what else I want you to do. Like I said, I've worked on a lot of commercials. I worked on a commercial last year. It really means a lot to me, and I'd like to share the commercial with you real quick.
I love seeing the world in their eyes. But when I can't spend time with them, I do feel like I let them down sometimes.
I didn't know how hard work it was until I actually had to do it on my own.
I failed, I think, on a daily basis to live up to my own expectations. I question whether I'm doing a good job every day.
The boundary's too loose, what is right, what is wrong, and you get inundated with all of this information about how to do it and what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong that you start to second guess yourself.
I wonder what he's thinking all the time or what he's feeling because he doesn't really communicate all his feelings and emotions.
My dad passed away almost 2 years ago from cancer. Parents are the most important thing. I don't know how she thinks she's doing as a mother, but sometimes, you just don't really know the right words to say.
Dear Mom,
I often forget to tell you how much you mean to me.
you always taught me to stay positive, even when it feels like the world has fallen down around me.
I never really told you how much you mean to me.
And that's because there aren't words powerful enough to describe how much you mean to me. I admire your strength and courage. I love you so much. Love, Claire.
Dear Dad, the advice you gave me is to go to college, graduate, and be an honest person.
And I follow these principles and I will be well off. Okay. Great kid.
Dear Mom, thank you for being such an amazing mom.
When I grow up, I will always remember watching the sunset with you in Hawaii. And all the times you help me feel better when I'm having a bad day. Sorry.
But you always tell me to keep trying and that I can do it.
One of the hardest times was when my friends left me.
I felt useless and unwanted. But even at that time, you supported me. I couldn't have a better mom. Love, Zoe.
This means a lot to me.
Makes me feel like I've done a really good job. So maybe I think I'm only doing a 7, but if you get a kid to write a letter like this, it's got to be closer to 10.
Oh, honey, I love
you. Brought tears to your old dad's eyes.
So that commercial meant everything to me. It was really rewarding, one of the best things I've ever done. And I'm asking everybody a favor. Do it for yourself, not for me. Do it for your parents. Not all of us are fortunate enough to have mom and dad in our life, I guess. Maybe you live with mom. Maybe you live with dad. Maybe with your aunts and uncle. Maybe your grandparents are raising you. Maybe you're in foster care or you're with some friends. Whoever's raising you, whatever guardian is giving you the roof over your head and feeding and clothing you, take 5 minutes tonight. Okay, before you get on Instagram, before you get on Snapchat and Twister, and I call it Twister, I call Twitter Twister. Before you get on Call of Duty and Minecraft and Madden, before you take your night and do all your homework, just take 5 minutes. Do yourself a favor. Take 5 minutes. Go in your room, undistracted. Take some time and write down on your paper. And you tell your mom, you tell your dad, you tell your grandparents, you tell whoever. You tell them how much they mean to you. A lot of times parents we don't think we're doing that good a job. And if we grade ourselves, we always get worse grades than you give us. Give your parents a grade. Tell them how great a job they're doing. Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, it's all emotional, and we tell our loved ones how much they mean to us. But how about on a regular day like today? I'm so glad it's some of you, or it's really affecting you, and you're really emotional, and you're crying. I shot that 18 months ago. I stopped crying when I watched that video about a month ago. I can hardly watch it without getting teared up. It really means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to you. And I hope you guys take a couple minutes tonight to you tell your parents how much they mean to you. Have a conversation. Tell the adults in your life how much they mean to you. Tell the adults in your life how important they are. But whatever's going on in your life, whatever's going on in your heart and in your head, I'm begging you to do one thing. Talk to the adults that are in your life and tell them what's going on. Because you got a lot of heroes in your life. You got a lot of people that are there for you. I want you to use your voice. Because listen, the choices and the decisions that you make in your life don't just affect you. Listen, they affect your family. So here's my family. This is the redhead right here. That's my redhead. Love that girl. Man, I love that girl. Whew. Is the hair on my arm standing up? I have goosebumps. Look, I talk about my wife. Look in the, oh, quack, quack, look. I get goosebumps when I talk about my wife. Isn't that crazy? Every single time, look, I love my wife. I love my wife. This is my daughter, Kayla. I love her too. Yeah, I love her too. She got married this year. I told her, Kayla, you're not getting married till you're 40. She's 26, she got married. Don't you think that's too young to get married? 26. Well, she got married. I told her no, and she got married anyway. So my wife is an amazing woman. This is my hero, my son Corey. He did 6 tours, 4 Iraq, 2 Afghanistan. He's my hero. And if I didn't have the God I have, if I didn't have that redhead he gave me, I wouldn't have these 2 kids. I wouldn't have ever saw this, ever. And I wouldn't have these 2 little angels in my life. I wouldn't have 2 little beautiful grandchildren. And this kid's about to have his 3rd child because he's the most fertile man in America. And I'm like, Corey, 3 kids, slow down, son, slow down. No, Dad, I'm going to have a soccer team. No, you're not having a soccer team. Slow down. 3 kids, man. Woo! So listen, your choices, your words, your choices, your words, your thoughts, and your actions. Listen, please look after each other. Please look after each other. Please think about your choices and your words and your thoughts and your actions. Your character and your habit develops from that. It's all about choices, please. Last thing I want to say, listen, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, and what that means, it means being yourself. It means focusing on your education. It means making positive choices and positive decisions, communicating with adults in your life, saying no to drugs and alcohol, not allowing bullying to come into your life. Don't allow bullying, cyberbullying. Don't allow these things to affect your school. You make choices every single day. Every single day you make choices. I wish, it's just like life. Comes with a GPS. If you get to the light and it says turn right, but you turn left by mistake, what does your GPS tell you? Recalculating, right? You got GPSs in your life, your teachers, your coaches, your administrators, your counselor, they're your GPS. Success and failure is too important, and it's right at the foot of your life right now. Don't have these kind of confrontations with your parents. I don't want to see these handcuffs on you. You want to wear handcuffs when you get older, fine. Wear them right here on your hip. That's where heroes wear them. This comes with a pension. You wear handcuffs on your wrist, there's no pension. Look, no pension. I don't want you to see this unless you grow up to be a corrections officer, hardest job in the world. I don't want to see you see this unless you become him or her. And then you go home at the end of your shift. And I don't want to see you ever see this until you're like 150, okay? Have a nice, long, beautiful life. Don't allow things to get in the way. Don't allow things to come in the way of you and your future. Every single kid on this screen became incarcerated 17 years and younger behind drugs and alcohol. I got a documentary coming out in February about juvenile incarceration and how drugs and alcohol affect kids. And I want you to know that's not the life I want for you. This is the most important time of your life. This is a springboard to your future. You're writing a story right now. You're making a movie, and the movie's starring you. Do not allow the ending to turn out different than you want, than your parents want. I want you to grow up to be the people God destined you to be, that your parents and teachers are raising you to be. Let me just say one last thing. I hate this expression, turning up, right? Turn down for what? Turn up. I hate it. Turn up. A lot of kids are using it in a negative way. I was at Abercrombie & Fitch a couple months ago, and I'm getting some shirts for my daughter. Because trust me, there is nothing in Abercrombie & Fitch that fits me. Nothing in that whole store, right? So I'm getting some shirts at Abercrombie & Fitch for my daughter, and I look over on the rack, and there's this shirt. And it said, #turnup. And there's pictures of drugs all over the shirt. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I took the shirt to the register. I said to the girl, excuse me, what does this mean? And she goes, oh, great, another old person asking me about the turn-up shirt. And I'm like, no, she didn't just say that. Man, what does this mean? Sir, you know what it means or you wouldn't be asking me. I want you to tell me. Okay, sir, if you look on the shirt, the drugs, the alcohol, it means turn up. It means get wasted, get high, get twisted. Get twisted, that's twisted. Like, why would you sell this shirt to kids? Sir, I don't make the shirt, I just sell the shirt. Do you want the shirt? I'm like, do you get more rude as your shift goes on? Here, ring it up. Ring it up. So I got it. It's on my wall in my office. I hang it up, and I don't like the expression, #turnup, and especially when kids use it to describe getting high. So I need your help. I need Western Pennsylvania to help me trend something new. I want to trend a new hashtag. So today, on social media, when you get out of school, help me trend a new hashtag today. Instead of #turnup, turn up for algebra. Turn up for algebra. That's what we're going to turn up for. Yes! Algebra. Turn up for chemistry. Turn up for biology. Turn up for science. Turn up for life. Turn up for Jesus. Turn up for education. Turn up for your education. Woo! I love this kid, man. I love this little meme. He's sitting there with the sand. He's squeezing the sand in his hand. He's probably got sand in his diaper too, right? And it says, success, success. I could pull every 6th, 7th, and 8th grader here, and I could say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd hear all sorts of answers. Some of you would say you don't know. Some of you would say you have no idea, but you all want to be successful. Don't let anything get in the way. Remember who you are. And if you remember who you are, your life will change forever. Listen, I am so honored and thankful that I got a chance to say hello to you. I'm so honored I got to share my story with you. I'm very fortunate. Listen, I'm almost done. Give me 1 second. I'm very lucky and blessed to have my wife and children and grandchildren in my life, and I have a great life. But I'm working so hard, 7 days a week. I'm so hard to turn it all around. I want you to understand I've lost a lot of people. I've been to 154 funerals in the last 4 years from young adults and kids that are using drugs. The only way you can have a kind of life that you want is not to let that stuff get in your way. And if you don't let that stuff get in your way, your life changes forever. This guy's name's Jack Canfield. He wrote all the Chicken Soup for the Soul series books. You ever seen those books, Chicken Soup for the Soul? He wrote that book. It changed my life forever. And now I'm writing a book with him. My whole life has changed. I travel all over the country, meet amazing sports figures and amazing artists and amazing politicians, and my whole life has changed. I hang out with Zendaya on Dancing with the Stars. I got a Nickelodeon show coming up in the spring with Zendaya about choices for kids. I was on Good Morning America. I've been on the Today Show. One of my best friends, Michael Rooker, I hung out with him on Walking Dead season 3 for 3 shows. My life has changed. My whole life, I was on Good Morning America. My whole life is changed because I'm making good choices. This is what can happen in your life if you make good choices. Turn up for algebra, turn up for sailors, turn up for something good today. Trend this, hashtag stay in your lane and stay in your lane. Go home and talk to your parents today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give him a round of applause again. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get out of here because I know we're going to get the high school in here next. So I'm going to dismiss first the 6th grade. You guys are going to go to 8th period. Then as soon as they're out, you guys are going to 8th period, and then you guys are going to go. Thank you so much.